Welcome back to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker, the weekly radio show that informs and educates you on how to buy or sell real estate. It does it with the owner of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty, Barb Schlinker. She is your real estate voice. Now, Barb, many home sellers fear the inspection. Many people think that most buyers want to purchase their home as is, but what are some of the ways a seller can negotiate when it comes to inspection repairs?
Well, Richard, I think the fear is very real and rightfully so. And sometimes, the problem is in most sales, in most regular sales, you've got a listing agent and you got a buyer's agent. So the buyer's agent thinks it's their job to get stuff from day one. And sometimes they completely lose sight of the overall goal, which is to get the buyer the house, right? And so the most common source of contract failures typically is an inspection. Now, I could understand if there was a major deal, like I actually had a buyer I worked with a few weeks ago that walked away from the house after the inspection. But that was because the scope of the repairs was extensive. One of the things the seller had done, they put in fresh carpet. They had that going for them. The basement bathroom had, I don't know, some kind of mold or discoloration. So they brought in this company to paint this polyurethane surface over it, to paint this polyurethane surface over the top of it, which makes it look pretty. But when we did the inspection, what we found behind the shower was pretty extensive mold and termites, and it was just it was the longest inspection request I had ever written. I just did it to know that everything, to write down everything that I thought she might ask for. And at the end of the day, she goes, "This is too much. I'm not going to buy it." So we walked away. We gave the seller the inspection report just so they have the information and they can maybe move forward with their next buyer and know what the issues are. Because they might not have known about the mold behind the shower. I don't know. And they probably didn't know about the termites either. So, and that's really, termites are pretty uncommon in this market unless there's an active water leak going on. And that's where they start coming in. But sellers fear them. They don't like surprises for unknown issues. Some of them worry about building code. Some of them worry about buyers requesting unreasonable improvements. So I just had that happen yesterday. I've got this home that's soon to close, and it's in really spectacularly nice condition. I mean, new furnace, new water heater, new roof, new sewer line, kitchen and baths remodeled, all fresh flooring, beautiful. I mean, it's amazing. And we did a pre-inspection just to make sure, and they fixed everything on the pre-inspection. The buyer did their own inspection. They, of course, were there for 4 hours, and then they asked the sellers to leave the house so they could talk about them in the house, which I was surprised the sellers did that. I told them not to, but whatever. And the one thing they asked for on the inspection was a radon mitigation system. And the way they asked for it is they just sent the request. They didn't send a copy of the report. So I'm like, oh, okay, I want to see the report before we do anything about it. And it turned out that, so what radon is the natural radiation of granite decomposing. It is probably everywhere, but in this particular geographic area, you can expect radon levels to be slightly elevated in probably 1 out of 2 homes. So a lot of buyers ask for a radon test, and if the levels exceed what the EPA standard considered to be enough to remediate radon, they will ask for a remediation system. So what is that system? It actually is a giant plastic PVC pipe that they sink down to the perimeter drain. They stick an electric fan in it and blow the radon out of the house before it comes into the living space. The cost of it's about $1,200. So the buyer's agent asked for a radon mitigation system. And I said, okay, send me the radon levels. So the standard is called a pico cure. And if radon exceeds 4 picocures, the EPA recommends that you remediate it. So the test results were sent to me, and the average picocure for this home was only 2.2. In fact, most of the readings across the 2 days were far less than 1. And I'm like, why is he asking? Why are they asking for radon? It's well within, it's less than half what the levels should be. So I asked him that question. I said, why are they asking for a radon mitigation system? Your own report says it should be remediated above 4, and it averaged 2, and most of their readings were less than that. Do they not want the home? He came back and his answer was, yeah, well, they're just hoping to get a pump. And I'm like, a pump? I, there's no pump associated with radon mitigation. So I really did not understand why he said that, unless he's perhaps unfamiliar with what radon is and how you remediate it. That's possible. But anyway, so the seller's response was, no, I'm sorry. We're not going to do an unnecessary improvement. This is how much an improvement like that would cost if you wanted one. And, you know, answer is no. And we had lots of other buyers that want this house. So if you want to move on, have a nice day. Immediately, the buyers withdrew their objection, which means, never mind, we're not asking for inspection anymore. We're going to buy the house. So that's a good example of negotiating inspection repairs. Now, they tried to get something that really wasn't broken, which is kind of odd. And occasionally I get those requests from agents or their buyers going, can we have new granite? Can we have fries with that too? Can we have fresh windows? I mean, this is not and to me, that speaks to the lack of experience of the agent. The agent should coach their buyers to let them know when they're doing an inspection, it is not their time to get upgrades and new stuff. It is their time to address any broken systems about the home and try to be somewhat reasonable in that request. You don't have to ask for every little cosmetic ding on the house. It's supposed to be focused on the major systems in the home and the functionality of the home. But the problem is, in the state of Colorado, there is no license to be an inspector. I've had landscapers inspect my listings. I've had the daddy of the buyer inspect my listings. You never know what's going to happen. But typically, the things that you should be tuned into before you sell your home are looking at the big ticket items, things like roofs, furnaces, electrical panels. All those kind of things come under really tight scrutiny. Sewer lines and septics can be really, really expensive repairs. Lately, my clients have gotten ahead of that and they've had their septic inspected in a timely manner. And at the same time, I have 2 of them that have to replace a leach field. Those are very expensive systems to redo. So what happens? They're working on that. And I had this one agent that said, hey, we want to do an inspection right away on a house that has a well and septic. And so we're in the process of, they had the tank emptied, it's emptied. The leach field's dysfunctional. It's going to be a little doubtful to put a bunch of water into the tank and the leach field at this point. But what I know from my own experiences in the past is the way inspectors test wells and test septics is they go to the house, turn every single faucet on the house, inside and outside, and run it for 4 hours. Would you like that, Richard, if you had a well?
I would be so angry and I would want you representing me. Swear to God, Barb.
Well, anyway, and here's the thing is that if they damage something like happened on one of my properties where they ran the well completely dry, sucked sand up through the well pump into the plumbing fixtures, into the sinks and the tub, that could cause damage to all those things. So I'm telling the buyer right now, no inspection. You have not submitted earnest money. If you mess up one of those systems, the only recourse the seller has is that earnest money. So we're going to make sure that all that's done yet before we let you go in there. And we're going to instruct them. Most well companies don't run the water for 4 hours. You can run it for 1, that's fine. And any, just to do the normal check, but you don't, What the inspectors tend to do is they turn on every single faucet. Even my inspector does this, and they let it run and run and run and run. And they're looking for leaks. I get that, but it creates a problem, especially on a system that has a well. So it has to be done with permission and properly. So my name is Barb Schlinker. I'm the broker owner of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty and the host of this show, Your Real Estate Voice. And what we're talking about is a good way to negotiate inspection repairs. And we're going to really dive into negotiations when we come back. Richard?
We're talking about inspection, repairs, inspectors, and everything that you really need to know about this. You're going to get from Barb Schlinker, Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. So, Barb, talking about these inspections, what are some other home inspection issues that come up? You've been doing this for a couple of decades. You have to have seen many of them.
Well, Richard, the typical stuff, our roof, these inspectors, they come in with gadgets. I've seen infrared detectors. I've seen carbon monoxide detecting equipment. I've seen a mold wand. It's a little bit insane sometimes. I've had buyer agents ask for a new roof for the sole reason that the roof is more than 10 years old, regardless of its condition. So you don't have to comply with everything that they ask for. So you need to hire an agent that's skilled in negotiating, that really knows how to deal with these requests and respond appropriately and approach it from a perspective of, it's not like we're trying to hand off a bad house to a buyer. It's what is reasonable and what is completely unreasonable. Now the buyer could still reject it and terminate the contract. That's fine. But in general, it's reasonable to ask for broken stuff to be repaired. An example would be like roofs. We have so much hail in this climate that we get a lot of requests. Probably, I would say 50% of my listings, the sellers are having to put a new roof on because of hail damage. So that is something a seller can check in advance, and they absolutely should. A lot of these roofers will do a free roof certification. They'll come out and check it out and let them know if they have to make a claim. You want time to be able to shop around for the right roofer. Okay, that's one thing. Plus, what about your deductible? I have a client right now, their deductible is $9,000. That's a lot of money extra that they weren't planning on paying through the deal. Okay. So you want to know up front if that problem is happening, because once you go under contract, you think you're going to the finish line and moving, and you got to worry about this other major repair. So the way we work for our sellers is we get in there and we will negotiate for them. But if they know in advance, that's the best way to handle the process. That's why we offer what we call a certified pre-owned home program, where you can opt to do a pre-inspection and you know about all these things up front. And don't let unlicensed inspectors run your water for 4 hours. Don't let dummy agents go in there and run a bacteria test on the well. They don't know what they're doing, and they can derail the contract by lack of skill. And that's part of the thing that we actually put in our inspection policy and provide to buyers, just to make sure there are no surprises when we get to the finish line. So if you are thinking of making a move, it's really important to have an experienced agent, especially when it comes to negotiations with regards to inspections and all those things. So if you are thinking of doing that, give us a call, 719-301-3900, or go to barbhasthebuyers.com. Richard?
Barb, your favorite time of the show. You've got some hot new listings out there. Tell us about them.
I do. I have a beautiful 2.5 acre piece of land on top of Woodmore Mountain at 129.9, a gorgeous townhome in Riley Grove by Peterson Air Force Base at 354.9, a fabulous home on 35 acres at 379.9, beautiful townhome in Briargate on Smoke Tree at 320, gorgeous remodeled home on Snowbird at 559. We also have an amazing manufactured home out on 35 acres with gorgeous views, just dropped the price to $425. And we have a gorgeous piece of land on 40 acres, great to build on McClellan Road, a fabulous home in the Broadmoor at 884.9, a gorgeous patio home over off of in Indigo Ranch area at 529.9. Beautiful home on Allegiance Drive at 629, and a couple of homes out in Peyton, both on 5 acres, one of them at 719, the other in the sixes. And then we just listed a beautiful home up in Manitou Springs, priced at $1,084,999. This almost new home has an RV garage with amazing views. So if you are thinking of making a move or you'd like your home to be featured on the show, give us a call at 719-301-3900 or go to barbhasthebuyers.com. Richard?
You've been listening to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker. She's the host of the program. Program airs every weekend. If you're thinking of making a move, call Barb 719-301-3900 or visit barbhasthebuyers.com. Barb show. You can see replays of this by going to barbhasthebuyers.com, or you can listen to the podcast on all of the podcast platforms like Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, many, many others. Thanks for listening this weekend. To reach out to Barb, again, call her at 719-301-3900. Thanks for listening, Barb. Great visiting with you.
Thank you. Have a fabulous weekend.